Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to today's Explainer. We are tackling something that literally affects every single one of us, mastering the art of mindful communication. We're really going to transform how you handle those intense, high-stakes conversations that can just, boom, derail your entire day. We'll be unpacking the physical and mental practices that actually work right in the heat of the moment. Specifically, we're looking at the ABC framework and the absolute incredible, yet totally underutilized, power of the strategic pause. So here's our quick roadmap for today. First, the high-stakes conversation. Then, A is for arrive. 3 is B is for breathe. 4, C is for connect. 5 is master the strategic pause. And finally, 6, redirect negativity and listen. Let's get right to it.
Section 1, the high-stakes conversation, and facing what experts call the uh-oh pinch. Let's start with the problem itself.
Think about this for a second. Ever had a conversation just take a sharp left turn out of nowhere? You know the feeling. You're talking to a colleague or maybe your partner, and suddenly you're just staring at them in stunned disbelief, thinking, wait, did they really just say that? In a split second, all your good intentions and perfectly laid plans just fly right out the window. The dynamic shifts, and suddenly you're thrown completely off balance. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what happens next in our bodies. It's the biology of that uh-oh pinch. When we hit sudden social resistance, our bodies literally prepare for survival. You feel it, right? Heat rises up the back of your neck. Your breathing gets heavy. Your palms start to sweat. Your thinking completely scrambles, and your focus narrows into full-blown fight-or-flight mode. At that point, you're no longer communicating. You're just reacting. But here's the catch. When this happens right in the middle of a tense meeting, you can't exactly just say, "Excuse me, wander down the hall and meditate for 20 minutes to find your zen." It just doesn't work that way. You need an in-the-moment physiological intervention. You have to marry your mindful intentions with mindful actions right there in the room while it's happening. Which brings us to section 2. A is for arrive, the physical foundation. This is the very first tool in our kit. We're going to use the ABC framework to pull ourselves out of that fight-or-flight state. It's pretty straightforward. A is for arrive, which tackles your posture. B is for breathe, to manage your energy. And C is for connect, to shift your mindset. Let's break down step 1. Step A, fully arrive. I want you to actually do this with me right now, wherever you happen to be listening from. Whether you're standing or sitting, put the soles of your feet flat on the floor, about hip distance apart. Keep your pelvis neutral and elongate your spine by lifting up through the sides of your torso. Now, just relax the tops of your shoulders, let all that tension drop away. Finally, picture your head sitting lightly right on top of your spine. This right here is the alert yet relaxed posture. It physically tells your brain, hey, we're poised and present. We are not under attack. Plus, it subtly signals respect and full attention to whoever you're talking to. Moving to section 3, B is for breathe, grounded curiosity. Once your posture is dialed in, we go straight to the breath. Now, in high-stakes moments, we don't actually want to be completely blissed out or half asleep. We need moderate, regulated arousal. To find that sweet spot of moderate energy, we use the 4-4-4-4-4 box breathing method. It's super simple. You breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 4, exhale for 4, and hold empty for 4. Actually, let's just take a deep breath together right now. Inhale and exhale. Regulating your breath like this under pressure acts like an anchor. It literally stops your mind from scrambling. And as you're breathing, you can actually assign a specific intention to it. Think of it as grounded curiosity. As you inhale, imagine breathing in curiosity, gathering inspiration, opening up to whatever possibilities the conversation holds. Then, as you exhale, focus purely on stability. Feel the solid ground under your feet. You are anchoring yourself so that no matter how crazy the currents of the conversation get, you remain firmly rooted. Section 4, C is for connect, the generous interpretation. Okay. So our body is grounded, our breath is steady. Now we're ready to tackle the mental mindset we need when things start getting rocky. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast between our biological default and our deliberate choice. When that uh-oh pinch hits, your sheer instinct is to narrow your focus, right? You either want to retreat into your shell or bulldoze ahead to completely shut down the other person. The ABC framework asks you to intentionally choose the generous interpretation instead. This means actively softening your chest, giving them the benefit of the doubt, assuming good intent, and viewing the conversation as a story you are co-creating rather than some battle you have to win. Section 5, Master the Strategic Pause, the Power of Silence. All right, so we've successfully regulated ourselves internally. But how do we project that grounded presence externally? How do we take command of the conversation? This is where we seriously level up our toolkit.
We do it through strategic silence. So often we talk fast because it feels like we're in control. We are terrified of dead air. But neuroscience shows us that the pause is actually where the magic happens. A beautifully placed pause gives the listener's brain the actual psychological space it needs to process what you just said. And subconsciously, when you show you're comfortable holding silence, the listener immediately interprets that as absolute confidence and mastery.
To truly get this, you kind of have to hear it. Notice how entirely different this sounds when I use a strategic pause. Here's the core idea. In practice, it means applying silence with intention. Did you feel that? That 2 to 3 second pause didn't make me sound unsure or lost. It created anticipation. It made the second half of that thought land with so much more impact.
To naturally build these pauses into your everyday communication, you want to aim for a speaking pace of roughly 120 to 140 words per minute. When you consciously drop your pace to this level and actively replace your filler words, the ums and ahs, with silent pauses, you build immense credibility. It silently tells the room, I am comfortable here, and my words matter.
Section 6, Redirect negativity and listen, deflecting gossip. Now, let's take all of this, the grounded posture, the steady breath, the generous interpretation, and the strategic pauses, and apply it to one of the most toxic workplace traps out there, gossip and complaining.
So the crucial point is perfectly captured by the ancient Stoic philosopher Zeno of Citium. He noted that we literally have 2 ears and only 1 mouth for a reason. Often, when conversations turn negative, our first impulse is to just jump right in, whether to agree, to argue, or to try and fix it. Mindful communication asks us to step back and listen empathetically instead.
If you ever find yourself cornered in a gossip session, you can use these tools to just politely starve it of oxygen. You can subtly shift the topic to a more interesting idea. You can use tasteful humor to lighten the mood. Ask an open-ended question to redirect the focus. Or if someone is being criticized, just drop in a genuine compliment about them. And, of course, embrace the power of silence. By refusing to participate and just holding a calm pause, you send a very clear, non-judgmental message. You are simply not interested in tearing others down. And this practice perfectly aligns with Eleanor Roosevelt's famous observation. When you use your tools to deflect gossip, you aren't just avoiding negativity, you're actively elevating the conversation for everyone. You're inviting the people around you to step up, to be a bit more generous, and to discuss ideas rather than other people. Let's move to and see how this builds into our final practice. Empathic listening. Look, when someone is venting to you, you have to resist that deeply ingrained urge to immediately fix their problem, interrupt them, or dish out unprompted advice. Sometimes, simply being fully present, standing in that alert yet relaxed posture, breathing steadily, and offering them the generous space of a thoughtful pause is exactly what they need to figure things out entirely on their own. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a bit of a challenge. You now have the ABC framework to ground yourself, and you understand the incredible psychological weight of silence. The next time you feel that uh-oh pinch, how will you use your next conversational pause? Will you rush in to fill the void, or will you take a breath, hold the silence, and master the moment? The choice is entirely yours. Keep learning, keep practicing, and we will see you next time.